Hi folks, it's Andy. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm here to talk to you about Suburi. We're having a quick informal video that I've put together because I had this sort of thought about Suburi, and it's, you know, I've changed a little bit about the way I teach it in my dojo, and I wanted to share with you guys. I think Suburi is a super important aspect of our Kendo practice, no matter what level you're at. If you've just started out in Kendo, if you're sort of intermediate, mid-dan level, something like that, or if you're challenging higher dan grades as well, I think Suburi is super important, and it can do a lot for us. But what I definitely have experienced is, you know, I've been very lucky to train with lots of different senseis from all over the world. And there's lots of different sort of ideas surrounding Suburi, or different sort of rhythms or patterns. So what I wanted to do today was look at 3 types of one method of Suburi. Okay, so we're going to be looking at a Shomen Suburi. It's Ikkyo Shomen Suburi, so men, and then returning back to Chudan. We're just looking at that Suburi, but the theory of this can be applied to different Suburi as well. But we're going to look at 3 sort of types or rhythms of practicing it, because different places teach differently. And I think all of them have benefits or merits. And I think what you can do, what I've started to do in my dojo, for example, with my students, is I'll use all of these to teach them the different ideas behind them so that they can benefit from all of them. So that's the sort of idea. I hope you find it really useful. Essentially, what I want to look at is each rhythm and focus on how practicing this type of Suburi can help you with your Kendo, and what it can improve. Because I think, you know, like I say, when you meet one sensei and they teach you one way, you meet another sensei and they teach you a different way. It's not that one is right or wrong, right? It's that each of their methods has potentially different benefits, all right? So it's good to know what we can use them for and potentially use them all to benefit in the most possible way. Before we jump into it though, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and do all the YouTube magic, and most importantly, support the channel by shopping at KendoStar.com. KendoStar is the best Kendo equipment website in the history and future of the human race. I of course would say that because I own the place, but it is what keeps this channel going. You get the best Kendo equipment in the galaxy. Now again, I would say that, but everyone agrees with me. Check out our Trustpilot ratings, and you get the best service as well, all right? KendoStar is an established brand, especially for the international community. It's a fantastic web shop, and it helps us keep these videos coming to you. Okay, that's KendoStar.com. Right, let's have a look. So we're going to start with what I call type 1. So as I said, what we're looking at here is specifically single Shomen strike and then return to Chudan. Okay, now you can apply all of these to different ones as well, but we're going to specifically look at a very basic men strike. Okay, it can be applied to kote strikes, door strikes, it can be applied to zenshin, kotai, and joge suburi, anything like that. All right. So the idea of this one is it's upswing, downswing, and feet are all sort of happen at the same time. So I've sort of skipped ahead, but let's show you what I mean by this. Okay, so sorry, I've edited this video and maybe I should have given myself more time to talk, but I'll show you in a sort of slow motion first, and then I'll show you in a full speed. So let's have a watch, and then I'll describe what's going on. Okay, like this. So it's one men strike and step back. Okay, so as you can see, the idea is we are stepping out with our right foot, okay, pushing the right foot forward with the left leg as we raise the shinai over the head, and then bringing the shinai down to men strike as we bring the left foot up. Okay, this is probably the most basic type of men suburi. Okay, and then of course we withdraw to Chudan no kamae. Sped up or sort of at full speed, it looks something like this. Okay, it's a sort of 1-2 rhythm, 1-2. Okay, very easy way to get to grips with the basics of Kikentai no Ichi. All right, so as I say, if we watch it in sort of slow motion, even this is the full speed one that I'm doing, but if we look, my arms come up as my right foot comes out, and they come down as the left foot comes in. All right, and it all comes together as a unified strike. All right, that's really important. Now, people, this is probably the most common way I think people learn the basic suburi. And I think it's really good for that. And I think what's really beneficial of it is it's a good way to just simplify, get everything down to basics, and just make sure everything is coherent and cohesive and happening together. The strike comes down as the left foot comes in, and then the shout men all happens together, and that's a really good thing that we can focus on. All right, it's really good for that, and of course good for beginners for that reason as well. What's really important that we have to make sure that we do is make sure that we swing the shinai over our head, make sure we keep our posture this way. We're pushing. Notice I'm pushing my body forward from my left leg as I raise the shinai up. All right, so that lets me retain my posture. If I step out with the right leg, I'll break the posture. Okay, and then what I want to do is my left foot wants to come quickly up behind me as the shinai comes down to the men strike. Okay, so that it's nice and sharp. All right, and at the same time we say men. Okay, nice, good voice. And we end in nice, good posture like this, okay? So we're not sort of leaning and stuff, okay? And my men strike is at the correct height, okay? About some of my own height. I'm cutting into the men, okay? It's not up above the head. It's about sort of face, chin level, all right? Sort of more advanced points, I'd say, is keep an eye on the position of the wrist, all right? See that my wrist is sort of straight here, this straight line here. This is quite an important aspect of sort of more advanced Tenno-uchi. Okay, lots of people ask me about this sort of Suburi and say, why do we sort of cut on the left leg when we do Suriashi or this kind of Suburi, but when we do Fumigomi, we cut on the right leg? And I think that's a really good question as well, but actually it's a little bit of a misnomer. In both cases, we're cutting as we push off with the left leg. And in a way, this is broken down in a very basic rhythm, you see, of 1, 2, 1, 2 with the hands, 1, 2 with the feet. Okay. So as I say, it's a sort of basic version, but the Fumikomi is more about pushing off with the left leg than it is about stamping with the right leg. That's the key point that I think a lot of people misunderstand or misinterpret about Fumikomi. And they try and stamp their right foot on the floor as they hit with the shinai. When really what you need to do is launch your body forward from your left leg and strike, and the Fumikomi lands and the left foot comes up almost immediately. So it all happens at roughly the same time, okay? But the action of the left leg is far, far more important than the right leg. And it's the same in this Suburi as well. This Suburi, you can really, really improve your Kendo no matter what level you're at, even with this very, very basic Suburi. If you focus on this part here, it's the part of pushing forward from the left leg here, yeah? One more time. It is this part where we push the right foot out with the left leg. In other words, I'm thinking about pushing my hips forward, okay, rather than stepping out with my right leg. That's the really, really important aspect of this type of Suburi, okay? So that's type 1. Essentially, it's a sort of 1-2 rhythm. Hands go up as the right foot comes down. Hands come down and strike as the left foot comes up, all right? I hope that makes some sort of coherent sense. Okay, so next we're going to look at type 2. Type 2 is we're going to upswing first, and then the downswing is going to happen at the same time as the feet go, all right? So the feet are going to go together in a way, all right? This is a different rhythm. It's still a 1-2 rhythm in that if we were to sort of break it down into 1 and 2, the previous one is when we lift up, 2 is when we step in and cut. And this one is when we lift up, and 2 is when we step our body forward and cut, if that makes sense. Did I say that right? Type 1 is on the 1, we lift up with the right, lift up with the hands and push out with the right leg, and 2 on 2, the left leg comes up and the shinai comes down. In type 2, this one that we're looking at now, on 1, if we were going to count 1 and 2, on 1, the hands would come up and the body would stay still. Then on 2, we'd step forward and we'd cut, okay? So this is a little bit harder. This is a little bit more advanced, actually. Now, I'll come back to these in a minute in terms of their applications, because both of these exist in Kendo as well with the Bolgon, and we'll talk about that more as well. This type of Suburi, in my experience, is very, very popular with one place that I've seen it, and I've seen it described as, and I've seen it literally practiced as, is the Tokyo Metropolitan Police. They tend to practice Suburi in this method, type 2. Okay, so let's have a look at the example. So we raise first, and then step forward and cut. Does that make sense? See how it's different to the first one? Raise first, then step forward and cut at the same time. Okay. Now this is somewhat harder. Okay, somewhat harder. So at sort of higher speed or full speed, it looks more like this. Okay, so we're lifting first. You can see the difference, right? Okay. This way, okay, you see the difference. Now, the difference with this one, the benefit of this one, is that this is very good for improving your kitsuke ashi. That's the left foot coming up quickly, because both of your feet have to move pretty much in one beat, okay? Before it was 1, 2 with the feet, right? This time it's 1, 1, and this is much harder, but it's really, really good for your kendo, okay? So it's a really good way to practice Suburi as well. Like this, okay? So you have to move your left foot up quickly so that it's still coherent, right? Still cohesive all together, all right? So it all happens at the same time. This is really, really important as well, okay? So this is step 2, really. I'd say this is like slightly harder than the previous one. So I think the next one as well is even harder, but this one I think is particularly a good example of sort of a middle ground Suburi, or a sort of intermediate level Suburi as well, especially if you're sort of around, I'd say sort of between Nidan and Godan. This is a really, really good Suburi to practice. Maybe Nidan, Yondan, sort of Godan, you need to start focusing on more stuff as well. But it's, can you see the difference? Okay, that's rhythm 2, all right? If we just skip that to rhythm 1, I think this is rhythm 1. Yeah, see how it's different? That's rhythm 1. And then this is rhythm 2. See how it's different? Okay. Rhythm 1, 1, 2, this way. On rhythm 2, 1, 2. Okay, slightly different, right? Slightly different. Now, before we move on to rhythm number 3, again, I just want to talk about what's really important. Obviously, the points you have to be careful of are the same as in number 1 in terms of your posture, pushing out with the left leg, stuff like that. But what I really want to say is it's really, really good. Again, I can't stress enough, it's really good for having that fast hikitsuke and a good sharp downswing as well. What I often see people do is they'll lift the shinai up reasonably slowly and then it comes down reasonably slowly as well. Whereas in this one, you have to let the kensen, the tip of the shinai, fly forward and strike, okay? Because it's a strike, don't forget. It's not just lifting up and lifting down, okay? It has to be sharp. This way, okay? Now, before we move on to number 3, I want to just talk about this number 2 and, 1, 2, about their applications, all right? Where do we actually use these in Kendo? Now, they're super, super common, all right? This is type 1, type 1, where we go 1, 2, yeah? Arms up, right foot out, left foot up, arms down. This is essentially the rhythm that we practice our sayumen uchi, or yokomen uchi, our diagonal strikes in kirikaishi, okay? Now, this is something that I see people really struggle with, and even people that have got sort of downgrades often struggle with this. And what you see them do is they'll hit, the strike hits as they step out with the right, and then as they bring the left up, they lift the shinai. When that's not correct, that's incorrect. That's not kikentai ichi, okay? That's kikentai fuichi, okay? So not kikentai ichi, all right? You have to do kirikaishi sayumen in the same way as you do this Suburi, okay? The strike comes down as the left foot comes up. Lift up as we step forward, down as the left foot comes up. Not the opposite way around. It's really, really clear when you see people do that, where they'll sort of hit on the right and then lift, and it kind of looks like men, 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 like this instead of men, 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 men. Okay, it's very much more disjointed because their legs are apart as they hit, so they're sort of down this way and then up as they swing up, down as they hit, and it should be the opposite. Okay, it's you should be in good posture when you hit this way, okay? That's a really, really key thing. So I would recommend everybody to have a look at their own kirikaishi, video themselves, check that your rhythm is like this type 1 suburi when you're doing your komeuchi, okay? Are your strikes happening as the left foot comes up or as the right foot goes out, okay? Now, number 2, type 2, the place where we see this a lot. The other thing that's really useful about this, and I find this useful for teaching my beginners, is this is in a way very similar to how we do fumikomi, all right? So we're using suriashi, of course, but when we do the large one with fumikomi, especially at a basic level, we often lift first and then leap forward. This is how I usually teach it anyway. Lift first, then leap forward with the body and hit with fumikomi. And it's the same, except instead of suriashi, we're doing a fumikomi with our right foot, but we're still pushing from the left leg when we do this, all right? So the mechanics are the same as when you do fumikomi strike, all right? And the rhythm is the same. So it's really, really useful, I find, this type 2 rhythm suburi for improving fumikomi strikes, especially in beginners, all right? But it's super, super important that they learn, and I find anyway, I think it's really important that we understand that both of these rhythms exist in Kendo, right? And there's another one as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. But these two exist in the broader sense of Kendo, not just in Suburi. And you have to be able to use and utilize both of them in the right situation, all right? So like when you're doing kirikaishi, make sure that your sayumen footwork is correct. When you're doing your fumikomi strikes, especially with the large swing, all right? Because what you tend to find, if students try to swing and stamp forward at the same time, absolutely always their foot lands well before their shinai starts to come down, all right? It kind of goes bam, bam that way. So what I always tend to get them to do is lift first and then step forward with the fumikomi and strike, all right? So that they're not trying to rush it all together and it all ends up disjointed, all right? I think that's really, really important. Okay, so these two straight away are different rhythms that are really useful for your Kendo, how you can use your Suburi to improve your Kendo using these two rhythms, and they've got direct practical applications. Now, let's move on to type 3, because type 3 is probably the hardest one, but I think it's really useful as well. Okay, so type 3. So type 3, the feet move first, then the upswing and the downswing and the feet coming together. Okay, so I know that sounds a little bit different, but if we were to break this down into 1 and 2, type 1, on the beat of 1, we step out with our right and lift, and on the beat of 2, we bring the left up and bring the shinai down. In type 2, on the beat of 1, we raise the shinai, and on the beat of 2, we step forward with both feet and strike. In type 3, on the beat of 1, we're pushing our right foot out, and on the beat of 2, we're bringing our left foot in as we swing the shinai up and down into the downswing, into the strike. All right. So you've got to do it, swiftly. It's hard. But this is the most advanced type of suburi. But I think if you are sort of 3rd dan or 4th dan, you need to start practicing this kind of suburi because it's very, very important. Okay. Especially as you start trying to challenge 5th dan, 6th dan, 7th dan. Okay, can you see? So first, my right foot moves, and then I swing the shinai and bring the left foot up together. Full speed looks something like this. Okay. Okay. Right foot moves first, and then the swing and the left foot comes together. This is very, very difficult, all right? Okay, especially if you're not used to it. But what I really have to do is I really have to use my left leg in this one I really have to use my left leg to push that right foot forward. Can you see it? My weight is almost all on my left leg. There's not much weight on my right leg. I'm just gliding my right foot across the floor. Then when it's time to strike, my hands come up and down quickly, all right? And the left foot comes up quickly so that we're all unified together into our men strike, okay? Now, what this rhythm is super useful for is two main things, all right? And these are slightly more important concepts for sort of more advanced people. But one is the concept of striking in the timing of ichibyoshi. Ichibyoshi is a single beat rhythm. So my up and down swing are in a single men, rather than 1, 2. 1, 2, it's men. Okay, can you see that? I know I'm small on the camera, but instead of 1, 2, it's men. What, like in one beat, okay? But of course, I have to move my body forward as well. All right, so I start the body moving first, then I keep the kamae as long as I can, and men. Okay, so I have to swing the shinai quickly. Okay. So it helps me develop a ichibyoshi rhythm in my striking, okay? This is super, super important, all right? Because it helps me swing the shinai sharply, okay? My strike has to be sharp in order to travel at the speed we need it to travel, okay? My tenuchi has to be correct, okay? So it's very, very, very good for that. And then the second thing, and this is particularly important for people challenging grades like, I'd probably say 5th dan, 6th dan, and 7th dan, is it starts to incorporate seme into your suburi, okay? Starts to incorporate seme. In Kendo, we use our shinai, our body, and our spirit all as one. We know that, right? Okay. Now, that's not just in our hitting, but it applies to our seme as well. All right. Now, when we approach an opponent, there's a thing called semeashi, which is when you use your right foot like this to apply seme. Okay. And you see how my right foot comes forward, but my left foot is primed and ready to go. Okay. So it means that I can use my right foot to probe or to see what's going on, see if I can get a reaction out of the opponent, but my left foot is ready to launch me into a strike, just like with this suburi. Okay. Just like with this suburi, and that's super, super important. So that's what it's helping me develop, all right? The image or the impression that I've got in my mind is that I'm keeping my kamae as long as possible, and it's bam, yeah? Now, we're using large strikes. We're using large strikes because it's suburi, right? But in real terms, of course, you can do this with a large strike with fumikomi as well. Start with the right and then bam, this way, right? You do a very powerful, large men strike. It's very difficult to do that, but it's definitely another way to practice it. But when we're doing small strikes especially, this is really, really relevant, okay? Because we want to keep the shinai in our kamae position as long as possible. Apply seme on the opponent, move forward just with the right foot, and if we hold that kamae, they don't know where we're going to hit, right? If I do this, then they know I'm going to hit men. But if I keep the kamae here, and it's and then the last minute, bam! There's that men strike, all right? So what this is doing is it's training us to use our left foot properly, use our weight distribution properly, how we can use our left leg to push our right foot forward to apply seme and get some kind of reaction from our opponent, all right? Now, it might be that from that right leg coming out, it might be that we don't leap forward for men. We might hit kote instead, or we might give a little bit of a, come on then, like that, and they'll come and we can do some kind of ojuwaza, all right? But what we have to do in all of these situations is make sure that our left leg is primed and ready to go. And this suburi is one of the best ways you can practice that at home on your own even, all right? So it's a really great way to practice it. And I really, really value this type of suburi. It's a different to the other two, all right? But I think it's really, really useful. And I really think Kendoka, especially at higher levels, can definitely benefit from this, all right? So let's recap, all right? This is type 3, okay? So we've got type 1. Type 1 is the basic 1-2 rhythm, all right? On 1, we step out with the right and lift. And on 2, the leg comes up and we strike the men, okay? 1, 2, okay? Let's watch it in sort of more full speed. 1, 2, okay? Even when we're doing this, by the way, I think it's important to try to still make the cut sharp, all right? You notice I'm still trying to swing the shinai quickly and have sae, which is a sharpness, crispness of the strike, yeah? Okay? It's type 1, okay? Type 2, we're going to lift first. We're going to lift first, then we're going to step out together with our feet and strike, okay? This is type 2, all right? This is going to help us develop moving our feet quickly, all right? And this is similar to how we do a large strike with Rumikomi often, all right? Whereas type 1 is more like how we do the Sayumeuchi and Kirikaishi, okay? So check yourselves on that too, all right? That's type 2. Up first, step forward and cut, okay? That's type 2, okay? Then type 3, slightly more complicated. Right foot comes first. Right foot moves first. Right foot moves out first. Keep the kamae as long as possible. Then lift and bring the left foot up together, all as one in the rhythm of ichibyoshi. Okay, like this. Okay, like this. Okay, this is going to help us develop our semi. It's going to help us develop our ability to launch from the left leg. Yeah, it's going to develop our sharpness of strikes as well. So, it's another way of improving our kendo. Okay, so this is 3 ways of practicing just one type of suburi. Imagine how much you could do if you applied this to different things as well. All right, there's so much suburi can do to help you improve your kendo. All right, so much. I really can't sort of overstate that, if I'm honest with you. But I really wanted to share this with you because I did think that it'd be useful. I did put this video together reasonably quickly. I hope you found it enjoyable and not too rambly. But I do think it can be helpful for lots of people. Like, share, subscribe, and all that stuff if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to shop at KendoStar. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.